If you've been watching the news the last couple of days, of course, the media doesn't want to talk about Afghanistan anymore, even though we ought to be, because we still have Americans stranded. So President Biden is focusing all on mandating the vaccine, saying to people, you will have to have it. Now, interestingly, if you're an illegal alien, you don't have to have it. And if you're a member of the postal union, you don't have to have it. But if you're in a business that has 100 or more employees, supposedly he's going to make it happen. Now, I think he's going to be jumping through a lot of legal lawsuits to do it. But before we just accept that this is going to happen, I want you to hear what he said and what the head of the CDC had to say about mandates. Watch this.
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory.
There will be no nationwide mandate. I was referring to mandates by private institutions and portions of the federal government. There will be no federal mandate.
One, that's not the role of the federal government.
I don't think you'll ever see a mandating of vaccine, particularly for the general public. But you would never mandate, at least I do not think you would. I'd be pretty surprised if you mandated it for any element of the general public.
All right, memo to Dr. Fauci, surprise, because we now have what you said wasn't going to happen. We have what Jen Psaki said wasn't going to happen, and what the CDC director said wasn't going to happen, and what Joe Biden himself says not only wouldn't happen, but couldn't happen. Now it's happened. Mandate for the vaccine. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and how many people are going to say, no, I'm not going to have the government force me. I want to be very clear about something. I got vaccinated back in January. It was a decision that I made. I'm at the age, I'm high-risk group, so I didn't mind taking it, but it wasn't because anybody told me I had to. In consultation with my doctor and reading everything I could, decided it was the right decision for me, my wife, same thing, most of my family, I guess all of my family that are old enough have done the same thing. But that was our decision. I don't think you have to do it, and I don't think I have any right to tell you that you have to, because I do. And quite frankly, now that I've had the vaccine, you're not a threat to me. So if you don't want it, that's okay with me. So here's something I wanted to also look at. This is yesterday, Joe Biden's press conference. Well, it really wasn't a press conference because he didn't take any questions. So to have a press conference, you got to take questions. It was his yelling into the teleprompter yet again. But he basically is blaming all the people who haven't had the vaccine. Let's take a look at this.
The path ahead, even with the Delta variant, is not nearly as bad as last winter. But what makes it incredibly more frustrating is that we have the tools to combat COVID-19, and a distinct minority of Americans, supported by a distinct minority of elected officials, are keeping us from turning the corner.
Here's, first of all, the COVID issue is way worse right now than it was a year ago. Up 300% from a year ago right now. So when he says, it's better, no, it isn't actually. It's worse. The Delta variant apparently has had a lot to do with that. But you can't just say it's all because of unvaccinated people. A lot of vaccinated people have also had cases of COVID. Now, they mostly are very mild, sometimes even completely asymptomatic, and there are very few vaccinated people who have died. That's one of the reasons I think makes sense to get vaccinated, because the likelihood that you will have a severe case or die from it is even smaller and very minuscule compared to unvaccinated. But to blame people, I just find that a little bit on the weird side, because I always believe that as a public official, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And it would be so much more effective if he would just explain the value and maybe give some figures and say, but you know what, that's your choice to make, rather than, by golly, you're going to do it or you're going to get fired. People don't like that. I don't like that. And heck, I've been vaccinated. But it ain't the way it ought to be done. Here's one more clip I want to show you. This is where, this is also President Biden from yesterday. And he makes the claim that vaccinated people have to be protected from unvaccinated people. And on that, I scratch my head and say, wait a minute. I don't need to be protected from unvaccinated people, do I? That was the point of getting the vaccination. This doesn't make any sense at all. Let's watch it.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you. I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week. The bottom line, we're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers.
Here's something he fails to bring into the discussion. What about the people who have had COVID and therefore have natural antibodies? According to the Israeli studies, and very extensive, people who have natural antibodies are actually far better off than people like me that have just had the vaccine who've never had COVID. And I don't want to go get COVID just to kind of boost my chances, because maybe I'll be one of the guys that didn't turn out so well. So I'm not asking to get COVID, but I'm just saying the people who've had it, why do they need to get a vaccine? They're already protected. Their natural immune systems have now made them where they're less likely to get COVID than vaccinated people. And he made no allowance for that. And I do not understand it, and I'm not sure how he'll be able to get through with that. I know we got a lot of questions coming in. Before we get to one, I want one more clip to play. This is stunning because Kamala Harris was in her own press event. She's sitting at a table not near anyone. She's been vaccinated. She's wearing a mask for reasons that make no sense to me because it's hard to understand her. So listen carefully. But what she says, now I put this in the context. Yesterday, Joe Biden says, this is not about your freedom. You don't have any freedom. You're going to get vaccinated whether you like it or not. And by golly, you're going to get fired from your job if you don't, unless you're an illegal alien or a postal union worker, and then don't worry about it because somehow you're immune. In the context of telling people that they have no choice, Kamala Harris has a little press event, and I want you to listen carefully to what she says. And I'm going to tell you the significance of her comments in light of all this after we watch.
When people are able to design their lives in a way that they can determine their own futures, we are a stronger democracy and we are a stronger nation. When people are able to make choices without government interference for themselves in terms of their well-being and the well-being of their family in consultation with whomever they may choose, we are a stronger society.
Now, if you think she's talking about vaccination, she's not. She's talking about abortion. So she's adamantly saying the government can't have anything to do with your decision. It's your decision, and the government shouldn't intervene. And if you want to have an abortion and kill your baby, that's something you ought to be able to do because it's your freedom and your autonomy and your sovereignty as a person. Somewhere the messages are disconnected here because Joe Biden just told us we're not free, we don't have sovereignty as individuals, and we don't get to make those decisions. The government is. She turns around and says the government ought to stay out of it. Two things. First of all, the left has no consistency in their own message. They don't know whether they're pro-government or anti-government. They can't figure it out. Whether the government can tell you what your health decisions are or whether they can't. Totally irrational. Here's the other thing. This is very revealing. Kamala Harris has been completely shut out of the White House. How do I know that? Because I know enough about White House operations and having dealt with a number of White House staffs through the years as a governor. The president and vice president both have communication staff, and they keep in close contact. Every day there is called the message of the day, and they coordinate that. If you have a vice president saying something totally opposite of the president, you have a total breakdown in communication. That means that the president's staff is not talking to the vice president's staff. Something is really messed up inside the White House when those two staffs, not only don't coordinate, they obviously are not even talking to each other or listening to each other, because yesterday alone, less than 24 hours ago, the president and vice president gave 180-degree, diametrically opposed messages that cancel each other out. I'm waiting on somebody in the press to pick up on that and run with it. They probably won't, but that's why you tune into the live stream, because we did pick up on it. Now, if you're seeing this, I know you've enjoyed that video. I mean, how could you not, after all? So you know what you should do? Leave a like, click on the subscribe button below, and hit the notification bell next to it so you'll always know when I have another video up for you to enjoy.